to read those readings because there was a time when we were reading the peace messages. It's a good few years ago now. My father was traveling quite widely, doing public speeches, and these were the condensed words of True Father. It was like the summary of his definition of true love, and many times he spoke about true love in that context. So it's interesting, and it's like out of our reach almost because it's like very idealistic, true love, the way the Father describes it, because it's like a world overflowing with love, and that we're all closely bonded to each other, and humanity would be living in this kind of a world where everybody practices true love naturally. You'd be living for the sake of others. You wouldn't be told to do it. You'd wish to do it. That'd be the difference. And it's a very natural world, and it's a world that we're supposed to experience in this world, the world of true love. We're actually meant to experience it. And there are many ways that we do. And of course, it's within the family, the Father says, in the 3 generations of the family, living together within the family. That's the best way to practice true love, to experience true love. But we have to bring it out of that, probably more than that, and we have to expand it to the world. This is the ideal of creation. This is the principle of creation, really. This is the fundamental aspects of the principle of creation. That's the kind of world we're looking for, and we need to see signs of that, signs of hope that's coming. But most times we don't truly experience that, We may say we experience love, and there is such a thing as genuine love, and that approaches true love. But when father or mother talks about true love, it's like love from God, and it's a more altruistic love. It's when I'm thinking about you, or you're thinking about me, and we're trying to think about how to make each other happy or give joy to each other, in that sense. One thing is, so this is it's not just a human feeling, it's a feeling, it also comes from God, that God is a being of this love, and that God wants to share this love to us, with us, and be with us. There's in our motto, we say that there's 10 heavenly parents substantially. That means now we need to feel God's love. It should be substantial. It's not just something in your mind and that you keep in your mind and that you study even, or like I like doing Hundake, and I like reading father's words or mother's words and so. But now the most important thing is to practice, because we're living in the kingdom of heaven, the Chonalguk nation. We're actually the starting point of the Chonalguk nation. Mother emphasized this very much. She wanted us to experience God's love within ourselves and within our families. And even before, you remember, I don't know if you were in Korea when we opened the Chonwon-gong, but the years preceding that, Mother was emphasizing this a lot, that we need to experience love. You need to experience God within your daily life and to practice that love. And Reverend Du, our international president, currently has been saying, practice small ways. We can't necessarily change the world, but we can practice small acts of love, with your spouse or with your friend or with your colleague at work. You can do something to think about them, or to think, what could I say to this person, or what would. But it's not so easy. And he's saying that, please reach out to people a little bit more distant from you. Somebody that you feel is a little bit distant, try to reach out to them, call them on the phone or something. And I was thinking about that myself, because my daughter lives in Scotland, and I haven't contacted her for quite a while, because she's very independent, and she went to Australia and then she came back but she said, oh, but actually she responded, but she didn't respond immediately. So I said to Sam, sorry, I haven't called you more or contacted you more. And then she didn't respond for a few days, and then she did. And she told me, oh, well, because Australia was so nice and sunny, and I had to come back to Scotland and it's so dark. And she was got a bit depressed about the weather. Unfortunately, the weather in Ireland is quite good. But I was thinking about that yesterday. The weather, Irish weather is like it can't make up its mind whether it's spring or winter, you know. So you find out that, oh, it's spring. Really, I thought yesterday this is spring because there was no clouds in the sky and there's a peaceful feeling. And I felt really, it's really spring today. But at the other side of it, I was thinking it's not going to last, but I better make the most of it. And I go walking, and that really cheered me up. Um, but that I want to say really to emphasize this aspect that in God's heart, He wants us to live in this sphere of love, this joyful sphere, that we would do things from joy and happiness. And even if you have created this environment, then it's much easier to bring somebody else into that. Like even God is attracted to a place where there's an experience of true love. And this true love is in our thoughts and it's in our actions. It's not just, as I said, in the mind, it's in the hearts and actions. We have to practice anyway. I'm thinking quite a lot about this point because I'm thinking, and what is going to make us into a family? It's not knowledge, it's not theory. It's like in the Bible, as even Paul was aware of that, because he said that the only thing that lasts and that never changes is love. He was talking actually about true love, in fact. But he says, oh, you can talk in tongues and you can do this and that, but those things will pass away. But genuine true love will always be there because that's the essential aspect of God's heart. He understood that to his level at that time. Now we know more fully because we know that God directly wants to be involved within our relationships, especially within the family, because he wants to express his love through a child or through your husband or your wife or your parent, your grandparents. But the thing is how to bring those relationships a little bit closer, to feel more close to each other. That's something that's very important. And as Mother also said, we don't even need to teach so much about the principle of restoration these days. We don't need to focus so much on the fallen world because people already know they're living in a fallen world. Like as you can see today, what's going on in the world, like it's almost crazy. Things are happening all the time. Now the war with in Iran and the spread of that war wider to the nations. All of these things are crazy. And but we know we're in the fallen world, in that sense. But you almost don't need to tell people so much about this. In the past we were always saying, let's go from A to Z, we teach divine principles so everybody knows there's a fallen world and the fall occurred. Divine principle also gives an indication that like we can't practice love. What happens is there's going to be falling out between people. But in a very small sense, it's actually individual people or families. They fall out. They have, they have disputes or enmity. And the divine principle says clearly, okay, what is indemnity? Indemnity is when you fall out with somebody, you need to make a condition to restore that relationship. If I fell out, let's say with Stefano, if I fall out with him, let's say he's my friend, or I think he's my friend at least, and then let's say I'm close, we're close friends. Then if I hurt him, then I have to do something to make that relationship better. So I can't just say, yeah, that's his fault. He's really he doesn't understand anything. I have to make an effort then to say if I wanted to restore the relationship, I would have to apologize to him. You know, that means if you feel the relationship is important. Otherwise, I might forgive him or he might forgive me. And then we can still go on, but we might not be good friends. So, there's a book written by Dr. Chapman, and he had described the five languages of love as well, saying that there's different ways to approach everybody. We have different languages. We have the language of service. Some people like to be served. There's a language of touch. There's a language of giving gifts. There's a language of affirmation of positive words. Um, there's another language which I can't remember now, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. But there's five. Quality time. Exactly. Quality time. So these languages are very important to understand other people because, sometimes you approach people and you don't really know their language of love, and you might not know, this person not responding to me so well because I don't know what really touches their heart. So it's the same thing with if you have if some for example relationships are not going and you need to apologize, then you might have to apologize very sincerely, and so it might not be enough to say I am sorry. You might have to show your sorrow. You have to show something. You might have to give a little gift to that person, or you might have spent some quality time with that person. So he wrote a book corresponding to the five languages of love, which are the five languages of apology. um, so that's something I think we really need to think about because we want to move beyond this restorational course to becoming more ideal relationships, have more ideal relationships. And I wanted to tell you about something that happened to me recently as well, which was I was invited to a meeting, Holocaust Memorial Lecture, but afterwards, or the event, afterwards I met a brother. He probably know him, Michael Gard. And in one sense, he's kind of like a bit of an enemy to our church, for the past, but I knew him from a long way back. And I felt I didn't feel that he was an enemy, but he's more like my brother. And I could talk to him. I didn't think at the time I could talk to this person. I thought he had done so many things in the past church. Like, one sense, he used to try to help our church to get through some difficult moment. I remember a time when there was a case here in Ireland way back. There was a kidnapping of a young person who came from America. And this brother, uh, came along because he wanted to help us. His name was Mike Gard, and later on, I think he established his dialogue center, and he wanted to help us, but he used to help us in some ways, and other senses he used to take away from us. For example, he would make opportunities for us to go into a school to share something with people. And well, at the same time, he would make sure that that school knew about the negativity towards the religious movement or towards our church. He would openly call us Moonies and so forth. So I had to deal with him in this sense. How do I understand this brother? And he was happy to talk to me, happy to feel that there was some common base. And this was important for him. And I said to him, and he told me my philosophy is um, communication or dialogue with confrontation, he said. That's his philosophy. And I said that you cannot make relationships with people with new religious movements if that's your philosophy. I said our philosophy is dialogue and cooperation. Anyway, he started thinking about it. So I don't know if I can say that he's a trustworthy person. I can't even say that he's a trustworthy person, but I felt love for him. I felt like he's my brother. And I think this is important in this day and age to resolve things with people. I read another very important book called The Son of Hamas. This was a person who you've been following probably sometimes the news on about the situation in the Middle East. Well, this man, he grew up his father was the founder of Hamas, and he was a Muslim and his father was a devout Muslim. But even though they were devout Muslims, they thought it was okay to kill people and to do all kinds of things. Well, anyway, this man, he his life transformed because he became a Christian. And the one thing that he found most deeply from Christianity was, he said, from Jesus, was love your enemy. He couldn't, he never felt this from anybody else. And so he completely changed his life because of reading that and recognizing that this is the essence of Jesus' teaching, at that time. So he was able to turn his life around. He stopped all of this terrorist activity. In fact, he tried to help everybody, and eventually he went to the United States. But I think sometimes we don't know the essence of some teaching. Really. When you read somebody like this who experienced the killings and the torture and everything and the things he went through himself, and yet he was able to come and change his life. So I feel that we can also learn something much more deeply nowadays, particularly considering what's happening in our church with the situation in Japan, with the dissolution of the church. We have to think about how that affects us, where we feel, where we stand. Can we love our enemies? Like the brothers and sisters of Japan are thoroughly trying to make a new start. Some of them are coming out of a kind of very tough feeling or sadness and grief, but actually feeling that they can make a new start. They can change. They can maybe make a new church, a new way of doing things in Japan, separated completely from the past. And they found out also that some people, and quite a lot of people who knew them, are still their friends, like they're not being kicked out of places. In many places, the people are saying, well, we know you for a long time, and you've always contributed to to us, and you've always been a good friend. So this sense, something can good can come out of it in that sense. So it doesn't take away from the tragedy, if you like, of the situation. That mother is in this unfortunate situation and that she's paying this price. However way you look at it, everybody has a different appreciation of how they come to it. Maybe I would say that she's paying a great indemnity for the failures of Korea to unite with her mother or with the Providence. It could be from the failures of our own unification church to be united, that there's so many factions that even within the true family, that she's paying the price for all of that without without complaining. And at the same time, I heard a beautiful testimony on. I was attending a prayer vigil on Friday, and there's at the moment in Korea there is a 40 days Tongil Mudo workshop, and these participants at the Tongil Mudo workshop are coming from all over the world, and some of them are from Panama, Congo, but they're not actually they're not even our own members. And one girl had an amazing experience, and her prayer was so beautiful. And she had an amazing experience while she was at the detention, at the prayer, where they go to have a prayer outside the detention center. She was praying, and then her spirit left her body and went in and went to mother, and she said mother was so beautiful, and mother embraced her and encouraged her and seemed to understand her heart. And she had such a profound experience, and she wasn't really like a unification church member when she went to Korea, because she's joining this Tongil Mudo workshop. But through that, she's participating and she's learning about true parents and true parents' life and father's life and mother's life. So that's really fascinating. I think I was thinking to myself, am I too small-minded? Am I too small-minded in a sense? God is much more bigger than we are. God wants to actually embrace all humanity. and the Unification Church has to open up. We can't just stay in our buildings, like it's a tough one because we're losing like they're losing their public buildings. But what happens if you lose your buildings? The real building is your own building, is your temple, is the temple of your body, the temple of your spirit. Like that's how the Christians lived in the early days, in the first century. They didn't have so many buildings. They actually they went into each other's homes and they worshipped and people said from that saw how much they loved each other. And they didn't have any of the assets that we have today. So I'm not saying it's a good thing to lose assets, for sure not. We want to thoroughly hold on to the precious assets which are brought with blood, sweat, and tears. But actually it makes us think really more fundamentally. What's more important? It's actually love, the practice of love in our hearts, the unity of our heart and mind, our spirit, and the quality of love that we can share with others, the practice of true love in daily life, whether it's small actions of service, small acts of kindness, words of affirmation, quality time that you can spend with somebody, that maybe needs somebody to listen carefully to what they're saying. I think all of those things we can improve. In fact, to make a really vibrant, holy community that could attract others to also participate, because you want to bring a friend and sometimes that person comes and goes, but they don't necessarily stay. Maybe we have to work on all of these things ourselves, even in the time of relatively peaceful time here in Ireland or in Europe in the sense of the church. But I just wanted to mention a few of those points today. And I think that's what I wanted to say, really. I would like to, either myself or somebody else would like to close in prayer. Anybody feel like praying? I just pray, so. Okay. Our beloved Heavenly Parents, we thank you so much we could gather together, brothers and sisters of our nation, our small community in Ireland. We really want to become a true family that attends you, but also shares your love with others and shares your concerns, Heavenly Parents. And truly, we want to recognize that you are also throughout so many years, thousands of years, you have been imprisoned by the situation of humanity. You've been burdened and sorrowful and shedding tears because human beings, your precious children, have deviated so far from you. And we are living in this 21st century, which is meant to be a century of hope, a world where we envisage a world of freedom and peace and happiness for all mankind. But in fact, we're facing so many challenges in the world today and so many wars. But the biggest war is the war within each person, the war between the mind and body, and war between with the fact that there's such a distance between human civilization and heavenly parents. But heavenly parents, we're grateful because you're close to us. You truly are close to us in everything that we do. And you give us such beauty and creation to make us stimulated, to feel joy, and to make us have appreciation and gratitude. Heavenly parents, please let us live life with more gratitude, more appreciation, more love, and more joy in our daily lives and in everything that we do, so that we can touch others and touch the people we come into contact with. I thank you so much for each one here today and for those who participated online today. Please bless each one. Give your special grace and blessing for each one this coming week. I pray this, report this, and attend us to our Holy Mother hand. My name is John Kennedy, the blessed family. Adieu.
Adieu.